Libya plans to set up a chemical weapons plant in the desert with help from Germany. Tonight we show the documentary evidence from German Secret Service files, and we hear Colonel Gaddafi deny the charge.
We haven't this kind of weapons, and we are not responsible for these people, what they say. It is falsification, I think.
Throughout the Gulf War, coalition strategy was dogged by one thought: the fear that Saddam Hussein might use the chemical weapons he'd already employed on his own people. And one country has borne the brunt of criticism for having equipped Iraq with poison gas. In January in Jerusalem, German Foreign Minister Hans-Dietrich Genscher is heckled. The charge: German firms sold Iraq the equipment to make nerve gas.
You know, gas has been used to exterminate the Jews. They were not soldiers, they were civilians. But there is a very special relation of the Germans to that sort of weapon.
Most Germans believe their country is blessedly uninvolved in the international arms trade. Firms, they say, may occasionally let suspicious orders through by accident, but that's inevitable in Europe's most powerful economy. Tonight we disclose that some German companies are in fact deliberately adopting a new role as arms suppliers. This is Tripoli, capital of the oil-producing state of Libya. In 1986, the city was bombed by the US Air Force. The raid was a reprisal for an act of international terrorism. The man blamed by the Americans was President Muammar Gaddafi, who's run Libya since 1969. Since the raid, Gaddafi has appeared subdued, emphasizing peace, cooperation and modernization. In the Gulf War, he urged Iraq to withdraw from Kuwait. But behind the scenes, he's been building up his arsenal. German firms have knowingly exported to Libya the ingredients of deadly poison gases. We also look at German help for Libyan long-range rockets and an underground command center linked to missiles. The chemical weapons controversy first arose over a place called Rabta, about 50 miles from Tripoli. Initially, German firms and the German government denied any link with weaponry. Later, the truth came out. Norbert Gansel is the Social Democrats' chief spokesman on foreign affairs.
There can be no doubt that Rabta was meant to produce chemical weapons, because in the end of 88, beginning 89, there was also evidence from people who practically participated in constructing and building Rabta.
Where did this evidence come from?
From persons, from German companies who had been involved and or had involved themselves in building Rabta.
And have you been in personal contact with them?
I have.
This is Rabta, photographed from a French spot satellite from 500 miles up. The Libyans say it's a pharmaceuticals factory, but the alleged medicines plant was exported to Libya in conditions of extreme secrecy. This came out in a trial here at Mannheim last year. Dr. Hippenstiel Imhausen, managing director of a German chemical firm, confessed that he shipped the plant out, pretending that it was going to Hong Kong. It was worth £75 million. The court indictment said Imhausen ordered up parts for it from 21 German firms. Court records showed a chain of small companies linking Germany with Libya. 3 were in Switzerland and 1 in Liechtenstein. Another firm was in Antwerp, where a businessman associated with Imhausen's firm has been charged. One vessel that took chemicals to Libya, the Belgian authorities say, was the Wilhelm Schulte, a 7,800-ton ship registered in Cyprus. On some vessels that took this route, the German court heard, a code was used to identify the consignments bound for the allegedly innocent pharmaceutical plant. There were a total of 107 consignments. 97 of them had been pre-marked with a yellow dot, 50 millimeters in diameter. The marked consignments were unloaded at Tripoli. The ships then sailed off to make ordinary commercial deliveries. German business seemed inescapably branded by the episode, but in Bonn, government supporters argue it's untypical and that it's wrong to single out Germany.
There are some 4 or 5 European countries participated to this special case you have in mind.
And who was the main contractor?
I think the main contractor for this very special issue was in Switzerland.
No, he was in Germany.
Yes, but the highest participation of this was a German enterprise. This is completely right. But the place where who it was, how to say, handed out and signed was Switzerland.
The German court gave Hippenstiel Imhausen a 5-year prison sentence. He told the court that a steel firm controlled by the German government had spent 6 years knowingly helping with the design of the Libyan plant. Key evidence that it was for poison gas came from seized documents listing 20 chemicals that were in some of the drums with the yellow dots. 6 were subject to legal controls under German law.
Phosphorus trichloride, isopropanol, sodium fluoride and thionyl chloride are necessary in the manufacture of sarin, which is a nerve gas. Other chemicals are necessary in the manufacture of a mustard gas.
Brian Dewhurst is a lecturer at Hatfield Polytechnic. One of his specialities is the effect of poison gases.
I'll run through the synthesis of sarin. Sarin produces effects on the central nervous system, resulting in the inability to breathe, and death is usually quite rapid.
How closely would you say all the chemicals on that list are linked with chemical weapons?
It's not just an individual component of a list, or 1 or 2 or even 3 components of a list. If I was to set out manufacturing sarin or mustard gas, or both of them, I would need all of these components on the list.
If someone arranged for the export of that list of materials, would they know what they were for?
Any chemist who has worked with organophosphorus compounds would know very clearly when presented with such a list what the likely use of such a list would be.
And it would be for making chemical weapons?
Yes.
The Libyan government says that on this list are the products which were going to be manufactured at Rabta. You've had a chance to look at the list. What do you make of it?
This list, which consists of some 18 pharmaceutical products, would tax even the largest of our pharmaceutical giants to manufacture at one plant. The list is far too extensive and ambitious for any developing nation.
German industrialists and politicians say a wide-ranging export trade is essential for prosperity. It's absolutely impossible to run rigorous checks on every order.
If the elements come from I don't know how many sides, how can you discover in a free world trade that this is exported for such a reason?
Yes, but Dr. Imhausen clearly knew there is evidence of another very
Of
large...
course, he is accused. Let's await the result of a trial.
We've had the result of the trial. He got 5 years jail.
Yeah, but this is exactly, and this is the disappointment for us all, and therefore we change the legislation now and to look for higher punishment.
But at the trial, it also came out that another very large German firm was probably involved.
Yeah.
And both Hippenstiel and most German firms always say, we never knew it was going to be used for warlike ends. But surely outsiders are going to say they did know.
Yeah, it is very difficult for me to be considered now as somebody who has to defend such persons. I can repeat only once more. We increase our punishment for people like this to the highest level.
Libya has a right to her own defense policy. The government laid down no conditions for an interview. Last month, during the Gulf War, we were ushered into a tent on the outskirts of Tripoli. A wood fire and a small camel farm were on hand, no doubt arranged for such occasions. Gaddafi denied that Rabta was for weapons.
I don't know this kind of things that you speak about, but it may be used in any other purpose, peaceful purpose, medicine or any chemical matters, not poison gases or something like this.
An expert we've spoken to says that the list of chemicals exported to Libya described at that trial was a classic list for the making of mustard gas and nerve gas.
No, the list is available now, and we published this list. And the contract between us and these companies to build this factory for medicine in Rabta. And this list is not a secret one. We published it in the media.
I'm sorry to say this, but it's not the same list as was given in evidence at the trial.
We are not responsible for any other false list. Our list is the real one.
Could I ask about the design of the plant? An expert who gave evidence at the trial said, I can see just from the technical plans that this is a plant for the production of chemical weapons.
Who said that?
This
and
is...
Who knows that? Who knows that?
Professor Wolfgang Svodenk of the University of Cologne said it at the trial.
It is not evidence to hear a person say the shape of this building is chemical and something like this. It is false.
Well, he's specifically talking about the safety precautions, which he thinks are incompatible.
No, when there is an international investigation for all countries, we will open this place.
Soon after one major scandal had hit German industry, another one loomed. Last year came indications that Libya might be seeking a second chemical weapons plant. In Washington, we talked to Bill Triplett. He works for a Senate committee which has access to intelligence reports.
There are some published reports that indicate that a place called Saba, 600 miles south of Tripoli, there's some construction going on, and we are not entirely certain what it is.
What would be the pros and cons of building such a plant now?
Logistically, it's much more difficult because it's 600 miles from nowhere. On the other hand, it is 600 miles further away from the Mediterranean Sea and the reach of the United States Navy.
Saba, or Seba, has a distinctive fish-shaped pattern to its streets, which is mentioned in a guidebook. Also, a big airport. Seba's old Turkish fort features on the country's banknotes. Gaddafi himself was educated here. He's seen here at a parade in the town. And the secret of Seba is this. The German Secret Service, in an internal memo, claims to possess the plans for a second chemical warfare plant which Gaddafi is planning to build there. It's similar to Rabta.
The numbering of the mixers and reactors for Seba corresponds to the Rabta numbering, with the exception of reactor R571, which appears to be missing. The controlled reaction processes at Seba are likewise designed to produce mustard gas and sarin.
And beneath Germany's harmonious exterior, a surprising transaction has been going on. The public prosecutor in Stuttgart, a spokesman told us, is investigating two German businessmen on suspicion of aiding the Libyan chemical weapons program. One man runs an import-export business from this house. His name is Hans-Joachim Rose. The other runs from this house a small firm called Abacus. It's in the computer business. Last year, Abacus placed an order with Siemens for this computerized control system. It can run a chemical weapons plant. Alleged destination, Saudi Arabia. True destination, the prosecutors told us, Libya. Siemens, who took the order, got suspicious. They blocked the deal and told the authorities. The firm, run by Hans-Joachim Rose, features in this Secret Service report. Geheim means secret in German.
Rosa, according to our information, has been associated for several years now with the Libyan chemical warfare program by supplying articles of protective equipment.
It adds,
It is highly probable that the system that is to be supplied through Abacus Rosa is intended for the new plant to be built at Seba.
The memo dated last year was signed by Hans-Georg Wieck, at that time head of West Germany's Secret Service. In May last year, Lutz Stavenhagen, German Minister for Intelligence, first mentioned Seba in a speech.
A German minister said that you were building what he described as a second chemical warfare plant near Seba.
If he gives you the location of this factory, you are free to go there and to see this factory.
I think he says that preparations are simply being made, that's all, there isn't...
If any preparation.
As we asked more about Seba, Gaddafi's English deserted him.
In March last year, a German company tried to export to Libya, under a false description, a piece of equipment that could be used to make chemical weapons.
I haven't been informed about this matter.
This has been in the German papers extensively.
يعني اللي يصدر من ألمانيا في هالظرف لا يعتد به.
Whatever is formulated.
Nothing published in Germany is worth paying attention to.
لأن ألمانيا تحت السيطرة الأمريكية.
Because
Germany is completely run by America.
الآن مضطرة تدفع ميزانية شعبها في حرب الخليج.
German taxpayers are legally compelled to make a contribution to the war, the Gulf War.
A firm did say that a computer mixing system was going to Saudi Arabia when it was in fact going to Libya.
معناها يعني بهنسل السعودية معناها السعودية عندها فرض بهذا.
We can ask the Saudi Arabians about it if it is really necessary.
Well, they've now admitted that it's going to Libya.
لقد افترضوا قبلوا بأنها اتجهت نحو ليبيا.
Propaganda.
Chemical weapons need delivery systems to get them to their targets, and the desert round Seba has also been used for testing Libyan missiles. These pictures from the mid-1980s show early tests there on a German-designed long-range rocket. 3 years ago, the United States Arms Control and Disarmament Agency confirmed that Libya was working on a rocket with a range of 300 miles. West Germans were behind it, and German television reported last year that German rocket technicians were still in Libya. There are also reports that Gaddafi is considering buying Chinese rockets. Some can travel over 1,600 miles. Fired from Libya, they could hit Israel.
Are you seeking to buy long-range rockets from overseas?
لو نستطيع لكن ما فيش إمكانية.
If we can, but it is not possible to do so.
Have you tried the Chinese?
هل حاولت مع الصينيين؟
الصين ما تبيعش صواريخ من هذا النوع يعني.
China does not sell this type of missile to other countries.
They sell them to Saudi Arabia.
لكن
لقد باعوا للسعودية.
يعني إيش معنى
Why do the Western countries and Israel themselves possess weapons of mass destruction, missiles and anti-missile missiles, and yet stop others from having them?
What would you want long-range missiles for?
إذا اعتدت علينا أي دولة نستخدمها ضدها.
Whenever
If we were attacked by other countries, then we would use such missiles.
we can utilize them.
لو العراق عندها صواريخ مثل ما أمريكا تضرب بغداد كانت هي تضرب نيويورك.
If Iraq had missiles similar to the rockets that the Americans are now using against them, the Iraqis would use them to attack New York.
لو احنا عندنا صواريخ عام 86 مثل ما ضربوا طرابلس وبنغازي لكنا ضربنا واشنطن ونيويورك ولندن.
And if we had had missiles in 1986 when they hit Tripoli and Benghazi, we would have used them against Washington, New York and London.
There may be a third installation planned for Seba. World in Action has obtained a memorandum from the files of Siemens, the German electronics giant, which may indicate Gaddafi's missile program is moving ahead faster than so far believed. The text says,
The military government of Libya is planning to build an underground command center. Its site is unknown. The command center will have a power station 30 meters underground. This will have 3 diesel-driven generators, each producing an output of 9 megawatts. At the moment, the project is in its tendering phase. This command center is also to be a control point for the launching of missiles.
The memo is based on a confidential warning from the German Economics Ministry telling of a possible further approach by Libya to German firms. At their headquarters in Munich, Siemens confirmed that they had received the warning, but they added it might be an idea that never came to anything. There is no suggestion that Siemens is contributing to the order. We have talked to experts in the fields of bunker construction, missile technology, and power generation. From their assessments, we have sketched out how the entire scheme described in the Economics Ministry warning might look. It seems to have three sections: a command center from which Colonel Gaddafi can retain contact with his armed forces in an emergency. Beside it, a power station with a 27-megawatt capacity. This is enough to power a small town. It could also service a chemical weapons plant. And linked to that, some kind of guided missile silo. Aaron Karp has studied missile development for the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute.
It would make tremendous sense. His military incentives say go underground, because it's only there that he can be relatively free of the threat of an Israeli preemptive attack. Israel has already attacked in 1981 against Iraq's Asyric nuclear reactor, which they thought might be the source of a nuclear weapon that could be used against Israel. A few years later, they attacked the PLO headquarters in Tunisia. And I think certainly Libya has to be afraid that its own facilities could become the target for another such preemptive attack.
There's some suggestion that it might be as much as 90 feet underground. Would that give security?
It would not only give security, it would provide for a very large facility. Advanced weapons construction, including ballistic missiles, could be built in a facility like that. It's important to keep in mind that when the Nazi Germans built the V-2, they built it in an underground facility, not at all unlike the one you described.
There's been some reference to your building an underground command center, apparently linked to missiles. Is this true?
يعني احنا نفهم من هذا ان
The implication of your question is that after the war with Iraq, Libya will be targeted. You are trying to find out whether the command and control system is underground or overground, whether or not we have missiles which could reach America and Britain, whether or not we have chemical weapons. This means that the issue is not getting Kuwait back or the implementation of the Security Council resolutions. It is the destruction of Arab power.
Are you in fact building an underground command center linked to guided missiles?
Anything which protects us and which protects us from the enemy, we can build it. And this is concerning us only. And why do you ask for it?
Where might such a bunker be? Where might it be if you are building such a
لو
thing?
كنتم بنيتم هذا المخبأ فأين ستبنونه؟ أين يمكن أن يكون؟
لا هذا سري طبعا بديش نقول مكانه وين.
This is confidential.
No one knows what use revolutionary Libya will make of the new weaponry it is acquiring. But the industrialized nations have learned from the experience of Iraq that the modern technology they supply can be used for unpredictable external aggression. Gaddafi's future policies must be seen as uncertain. He has genuine fears that the West or its allies may attack him, but he may also have military ambitions of his own. Nevertheless, once more, Western firms are helping to equip him, and some at least of the orders are likely to end up in the newly unified and powerful state of Germany.
Inside my